and welcome to another episode of the Wavemakers Podcast, where we focus on the stories of the leaders at the intersection of maritime, decarbonization, and digital transformation. Today's guest has more than around 15 years of experience in maritime industry. She has been championing decarbonization from various commercial roles, and lately she decided to be her own champion and to open her own company, C4 Fuels. She's also a board director at the International Bunker Industry Association. And I would like you to join me in welcoming Claudia Beumer.
Thank you.
How did that happen? What was your journey into shipping?
It's a very interesting journey, and I don't think I've ever expected that I would end up in this industry, because by education I'm a chemical engineer. So I've been working in the chemical industry for quite some years, and at some point in time I was working for a company called Emerson in the instrumentation and analytical part. And it was really nice. I really liked the company, but our business was really small and it was time for something new. And in those days, they just launched a certified bunker measurement solution, so mass flow meters for bunkering. And they were looking for somebody who wanted to sell that for the Netherlands. And I thought, I like diving. I guess I like maritime as well, so let's try that. And yeah, that was a good gamble because I really liked maritime and it was love at first sight. So indeed, that's around 15 years ago. And already pretty soon I said that I would never go to any other industry anymore. And yeah, so far so good. I'm still here.
And we are happy to have you.
Thank you.
This is a similarity between the two of us, because I studied environmental chemistry and quality control and sustainability. And similarly, the love for water eventually brought me to shipping. And I guess once you're here, now we're here.
It is, but some people said to me in the beginning that you either love it or you hate it. When you get in and you love it, you will never get out anymore. And if you don't like it, you will leave the industry pretty soon and you will never come back. And I think that's true, because a lot of people that I talk to that came into the maritime industry by coincidence, they're still here and they will never leave again. So it's a similar story for many people, I think.
Mm-hmm. And how did that experience shape you? And with this, I also want to reflect on who is Claudia behind the titles and behind what she does, but also how did this industry affect that as well?
One of the things that I experienced pretty soon when I came into the maritime industry is the open-minded attitude of people. When, just take an example, when I was working in the chemical industry, of course, which also is a very male-dominated industry, I always needed at least 5, 6, maybe 7 meetings before my counterpart started to trust that I knew what I was talking about. But then you come into the maritime industry, and I can still remember my first vessel visit. The chief engineer was so happy that there was a woman visiting his vessel. He said, "Oh, how nice, a woman visiting my vessel. I can show you everything. Do you want to see the engine room? Do you want to see this?" And he was so proud of what he could show. He really considered his vessel as being his baby. And he already assumed that I knew what I was talking about because I was there. And that is something that I have experienced over the years as well. People have been traveling around the world. They have been sailing. They have always been used to be creative, find solutions, and they start from the good of the people until you prove that you don't know what you're talking about, and then you're out. But it's a different starting point. So there is this trust and this mutual understanding and passion. And then from there you start to build a relationship and you start to work with each other. And that open-mindedness and that creative spirit of people in the maritime industry, how they solve things, how they handle challenges, that is something that I really like. And that's also what kept me busy and what kept me energized and inspired over the years, that you can help people to find those solutions. Yes, we have a lot of challenges. That's a fact. And we've just been talking 2 days during a conference about all of the challenges ahead of us. Mm-hmm. But there are so many people in our industry that manage to turn those challenges into opportunities and find creative ways to either make money out of them or find a technical solution and move on. And that is something which I really like, which apparently has been part of who I am for as long as I can remember. But I now found an industry where I can also be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yes.
very nice.
I also experienced similar things, and now with your final words, I realized actually this is one of these industries where they don't try to change you.
Yeah.
You have the space to be yourself,
Yeah.
and there's so much diversity among the people and how they are and
Yeah.
the cultures, and that's quite unique.
Yeah, and you touch upon diversity there. And I had a conversation a while ago. It was a workshop at the Dutch government. And they wanted to have a brainstorm session with some people from the industry on how can we as a Dutch government become a leader in diversity and inclusion in the maritime industry. And there were some people there that have been in the industry for way longer than I am. And the funny thing was that they also mentioned that if you look at the different industries around the world, diversity in maritime has always been a given. If you look at a typical vessel crew, they have so many different nationalities and they all work together. They don't judge each other. And of course, there is still a need for more women in the industry, and we still have to work on treating everybody in the right way. But diversity is something which has always been present in the maritime industry. We are maybe not utilizing it enough, or we could do that better, but it's part of the industry.
The times are changing where it requires these different skill sets and experiences, perspectives, cultural effects to join forces, and it would be fun.
Yep.
Yes. And across these 15 years so far, was there any advice that you have received that you carried on through your journey?
Definitely. When I like to move fast. I like change. I like to do something new quite often. And at one point in my career, I had a manager that said, Claudia, you're always running at a pace of 200 miles an hour. But sometimes you have to understand that not everybody can keep up with that pace. So just look over your shoulder and see if people are still with you. And that is something that at that moment in time I thought, yeah, right. But now that I see the challenges that we have in our industry, and that for many people it's difficult to adapt to the new world and the changes that we have ahead of us, I remember those words quite often, that indeed not everybody is so adaptable to change, and they need a little bit more time to get used to things and understand before they make a decision. And yeah, those words have turned out to be really valuable, especially when we talk about digitalization and decarbonization. Changes don't come overnight.
And how did you balance that nature of yours to want to run and the need to slow down? Do you still try to balance that? I'm asking because I need this advice.
Well, I haven't found the golden solution yet, because it is still part of me. But indeed, sometimes just look in the mirror and think, okay, I have to understand that not everybody is the same. So take a step back, slow down a little bit, and then seeing that that has an impact, that helps me becoming aware again of slowing down. And yeah, I just go to the gym quite often to get rid of the energy that I would like to put in other stuff. So it's indeed finding that balance. But as you said before, our industry is one of the few industries that doesn't want to change people. So the people that I've worked with so far, they also accept that sometimes I might go a little bit too fast. And they just mentioned, Claudia, take a step back, slightly slower, and then everything will work out well. So it's, will I ever change completely? I don't think so. But luckily there are many people in the industry that know me and just pull me back a little bit sometimes.
And how come you decided to embark on your own? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it was not something which was on my wish list for a long time. Many people always dream to be their own entrepreneur. I never had that. I never thought about something like that. But at some point in my career, I realized that for me, it's really important to actively contribute to decarbonization, digitalization, making the industry a little bit better. And I also realized that working for a company, you don't always have the means to do that, because there is a strategy, you have colleagues, you have a certain direction that you have to follow. And at some point in time, I was talking to one of my friends in the industry, and I was complaining a little bit like, it's not going fast enough, and I would like to do more, and I really, really miss the alternative fuels and the discussions around it. And he said, well, then why don't you start your own company? So, me? I don't think I can do that. But that was where the seed was planted, and I started to think about it. And then I realized, okay, if I am running my own company, I can pick and choose the projects that I want to work on and really actively contribute to making that industry slightly better. And yeah, of course, I'm not a huge daredevil, so I took a little bit of time to investigate. What does it take to start your own company? What if it doesn't work? What are the alternatives? And have a backup plan. And that was where I decided, okay, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. So just take the jump, start and see. And if it doesn't work out, at least I've tried. Yeah, and now I've just embarked on the second year already. So time flies when you're having fun. And it's truly the best decision that I've ever made.
Yes. Once we feel that freedom, it's interesting. You get a lot more work also, and you depend on yourself.
Yeah.
But there's this psychological sense of freedom.
Yeah.
And once you feel that, I don't know, it's difficult, I think, to go back.
It is. And I had a lot of people telling me that, oh, it's so brave what you have done. But I don't really feel like it was a brave move. It just felt that it was the right move at that moment in time. And honestly, I've never worked as hard as I have done over the last year. So it's not an easy ride, but the rewards that you get from it, and indeed the satisfaction that you can really make a difference and do what you believe in, that's worth it. And that's way more worth than paychecks or whatever. Yeah.
What was maybe some interesting story that you had over this past 1 year, or an interesting project that you worked on that was quite fulfilling for you?
Actually, everything I've done was really fulfilling and interesting, but it's more the experience when you send out your first invoice, for example, and when you experience for the first time that somebody reaches out to you because they have heard in the industry that you might be able to help them. Because I've been working as an employee for over 20 years, so you always believe that people ask you because of the company that you represent. And then suddenly people start to ask you because of you. And it's like, oh, they're asking me. They really think I know how to help them. And that is, it's an eye-opener. So I had a number of those instances over the last year, and I think those are the most remarkable moments since I've started this journey. That you start to become so self-aware that, oh, it's about me. It's about my knowledge.
I had a discussion with Max also. At some point, he's like, how does it feel to have your company in shipping? And I said, it's not a company until we have a first paying client. And then the first paying client came, and then he was like, okay, how does it feel? I'm like, what if it's just first one?
Yeah.
And then the recommendations start, and you think like, wow, actually we are creating something that people find valuable.
Yeah.
It is, it's quite a valuable, this emotional journey that you go through. And I also work out a lot, and I find parallels between the gym life and the entrepreneurship life. Yeah. Psychologically as well, like you think like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, and then you do one rep or you do whatever, and then you have this sense of like, okay, I'm tired, but I'm proud of myself and fulfilled by this. So it's really interesting.
That's a really nice parallel, because sometimes in the gym people say that the most difficult step is to get off the couch and to go to the gym. And that's the same with starting your own company. It's not something that you do like this. You have to think about it, and you have to be brave to do it. But once you step onto that journey, indeed, every time you start, okay, it's the first invoice, it's the first big project. Oh, it's a new customer. And say, oh, it's this. And yeah, you keep growing in that. And it's the looking back at things that you have done, which gives you the sense of pride and satisfaction.
Yes.
So yeah, indeed, it's a good comparison.
And even some of the thoughts, like in the gym, the thoughts are like, oh, what if you quit? Oh, maybe I'm hungry. Maybe, maybe today I didn't sleep enough. And when you're running the company, you have similar process, slightly different thoughts. What if this, but what if that? And you just need to like do it.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah, we have to get rid of those what if.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's so built into our system, and we tend to always think about the negative things. What if I fail? What if I can't do this? What if they are not happy? And for me, that was one of the most scariest things, that when I finish a project, to ask the customer, okay, can we evaluate? What could I have done better? What was good? What was not good? It's scary to ask for feedback. I was really nervous. Luckily, they were satisfied. But you have to also learn when something did not went very well, because that's when you grow. But that's, also a journey.
It is. Well, reflecting on that journey and the industry, if you were a ship, which ship would you be and why?
Wow. My favorite ship is an LNG carrier.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I don't really identify myself with an LNG carrier because they are, quite bulky and big. But I like them. But if I really have to identify myself with a ship, and I've been thinking about this, it's most probably a container ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's colorful, it's diverse, it's full of surprises. You never know what you get when you open a container. There is so much in there that it can be everything. So maybe that's the best comparison between me and a ship, a container vessel.
And it delivers things to many people, gives value to many, although that is probably true for most of the ships.
Yeah.
But I think people are the most happy when the container ship does the job.
Yeah, although I would not like to be full of cheap goods, but hey, you can't have it all. No, but that is indeed, and if you talk about that, I think as an industry, what we have to do better is spread the word about how essential our industry is. And we all know, and we value the ships that sail around the world, and we value all of the things that we do when it comes to decarbonization. But there's such a huge audience out there that doesn't see it. And they just assume indeed that those vessels bring their goods and they want to have it today and as cheap as possible, because we are so spoiled of having everything we want today, that they don't realize that it's all being brought to them by ships that burn fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of always talking about people in the industry, we might also need to market ourselves slightly better in the outside world.
Yes, those that grow up in the port cities, they are usually the ones who end up in the industry as well.
Yeah.
And the rest, things just fall in front of the door.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
What do you think is a useful skill to have for the industry now when we are onboarding the newcomers?
Being flexible, being open to change, but also respect the history. We need to change, and that is why we need new people with a different mindset, with a different skill set, but we also have to respect how the industry has been working for so long. Because it's only when you understand the past that you can contribute to the future. And that is something that is really important. And I have a daughter, she's 20, and of course she is the new generation, grew up with a mobile phone, grew up with talking about inclusion, diversity and everything. And I'm also trying to educate her that not for everybody that is a given. There are also people with a different history and a different background. And if you really want to move to the future, you have to understand that as well. And that's a skill that, in my perspective, is essential if you want to come into this industry as a newcomer. but also you have to love people, because it's a people business. Our industry is driven by relationships and trusting each other and working with each other. So you have to like that.
Does your daughter plan to join?
No.
Ugh.
I keep pushing. No, she has a completely different view, and she has some other ambitions. But she got inspired by our industry, and she really likes when I'm coming home with examples and talking about it. So I'm still planting some seeds. So maybe one day she will. But I'm not counting on it. No.
If we look into a magic crystal ball and look towards 2050, how would you like that to be like?
For our industry, I hope that we have a healthy mix of different fuels, where there is a matching fuel for every type of vessel, for every type of company, for every type of trading route. That we really value seafarers and their welfare and how they work with these fuels, because that's something that I see a lot. We always talk about the technological challenges of new fuels, the commercial challenges, but we also have a very large pool of people that have to work with these fuels. And now they are, in 99% of the cases, working with one fuel, but then suddenly they have 4, 5, 6 different fuels. So that we really focus on that, how we bring those people, like what I had to do, slow down, take them along, educate them on what's coming ahead of them and the different fuels with their different risks, so that will be a really good, or at least a proper focus in our industry moving forward, and that we have a smart way of working. Yes, we like pen and paper in our industry, and honestly, I'm also one of those old-fashioned people. I just moved from pen and paper to a digital remarkable, because that still feels like paper and pen. So I also am not that open to new technologies. But to make our industry future-proof, we have to start digitalizing. We have to find smart ways to do things, because there are not that many people that want to work in our industry anymore. So I hope that we become efficient and clean, and a very good spot to work for many different people.
Now that you've mentioned staff on board and them handling different fuels with a chemical background, I think you have a totally different view. How does that help or not help?
Yeah, let's take ammonia as an example. When people first started to talk about ammonia as a fuel, of course, my chemical background first came up like, no, don't. Not before I retire. Just put it aside. Don't do it. But one of the companies that I work for is SGMF. That's a non-profit organization, and they establish guidelines for the safe use of all of the new fuels. And in SGMF, they also spend a lot of time working on ammonia. So what do we need to do to safely use ammonia and to safely bunker ammonia? And I had to change my mind. I'm not there yet, but I do see that ammonia has possibilities for the future. If we get indeed the skills level up to the right level, if we find the proper ways to do it safe, if we find green ammonia and everything. So at first instance, my chemical background was more a burden than an advantage. But okay, I had to change my mind. And in general, when you look at the new fuels, it's only an advantage that you have that chemical background. Because you understand maybe faster than other people what the pros and the cons are, and that they all have their own specific manual and way of handling. So in general, it's an advantage, but sometimes it's, Also, we have to be open-minded as chemists, so yeah.
Yes, I also remind myself of that. Yeah. Especially if I'm trying to champion innovation, then I have to have this open-mind approach.
Yeah, true.
What would be maybe your advice to me?
You are already very open-minded. and understanding your own weaknesses sounds really negative, but indeed, as you just mentioned, that you understand that as a chemist you are not always open to things, or that you have to change and adapt. That's already a really, really good habit. And don't lose that, Stay open-minded, but critical. Because that's it's the mix between the two that our industry needs. We need to be critical, constructive, but also open-minded. And indeed, if we are wrong, we have to admit that and say, okay, we might be a bit too hesitant. You have proven that it can be done. Prove it. Let's do it. So yeah, just stay critical and open-minded and keep doing these podcasts, because it's, as we said before, it's not just about the technology. It's not just about commercial. It's about the people. Because without people with the right mindset and the right drive in our industry, we are not going to reach 2050. Yeah. So we really have to focus on those people in the industry.
It's also for me a journey of learning, and I always wonder, okay, how does one navigate this whole landscape of different stakeholders across the industry?
Yeah, I've been trying to realize that, or I've been trying to understand how for me that process worked. Coming into the industry from a completely different background, starting to understand the complex structure of the bunker industry with all of the different stakeholders and all of them having their own perspective. You don't learn that in school. You don't learn that by going to a course or just by nature. So you have to learn that by talking to people and understand their perspective. And I think that's also when we have new young people coming into this industry, talk to people. And now I sound really old, but I know that for a lot of the young people, it's even scary to pick up the phone. They're used to sending a text message. Trying to understand our industry and how the complexity and the relationships work, you don't learn that by sending a message. You have to talk to people. You have to go out, sit around the table, have a cup of coffee with them, listen to their story, and that's the best way to learn it. So understand all those different perspectives. That's the basis of becoming successful in this industry.
I just remembered how one day I was on my way to work and I got a call. And this was just when I joined Maersk. And I was like, who's calling me? It's like 7:30 a.m. And then I picked it up, and it was one of the suppliers who saw some video of a new vessel and wondered why the funnel was moved. And they're like, hi, Gurana, I saw this, and I was wondering, why was this like this? By the way, we have this technology. And I had a cultural shock. Like, I didn't expect this, but they were nice and they were very approachable and very friendly. It was like just so natural to them.
Yep.
And I was listening to him and also processing this cultural shock. And then I reached the office. I thought, actually, this was so nice. Like, it's nice to also hear people, because previously to that, I was doing business development for digital transformation, and a lot of it was email based, and okay, we have formal meetings and we would meet over a coffee, but it's just people wouldn't just pick up the phone and call me, and I like that. I like that.
It is, and that is one of the things that you really have to have in our industry. It's a natural interest in people. And I had an experience a couple of years ago. There was somebody reaching out to me via LinkedIn and said, hey, I see you're based in Rotterdam, and I was wondering, maybe we can meet for a cup of coffee. I was like, I don't even know you. Who are you? But something just triggered me. I said, okay, we can do that. Do you want to meet somewhere? Do you want to visit me in the office? I was still working for one of my previous employers then. He said, oh, no, I'm in the area. I'll drop by your office, and then we can have a cup of coffee. And he just literally said, well, I like to network. I like to help people. I like to connect people that, in my opinion, could contribute to each other's success. And we just had such a nice conversation. And he introduced me to some people where eventually also some business came out of it. I could help him with some things. So it was really the basic of a natural interest in people and helping each other. And even today he was sending me a message, hey, I see you're in Dubai, and do you have enough connections there? I still know some people from the days that I was working there. If you want, I can connect you to some people. And that is something that I've never experienced before I was working in this industry. That personal touch, people picking up the phone, asking how you're doing, having a conversation. It's so nice. But yeah, sometimes it's like, what's happening now? I'm not used to this. But you have to open up for that, and then
Yes.
it will pay itself back.
I was also commenting with Max how we feel that it is so foreign to people to even think of entering the industry, but it seems that once they're in, the industry kind of picks them up and like, okay, and
Yeah.
takes them onward. And there are so many opportunities to also shift roles and places,
Yeah.
but it feels like in a cocoon once you are known to people as well.
Yeah, and that is one of the no, it's not a downside, but I've always I felt guilty that I've never been a seafarer, for example. Then you are among so many people that have years and years of experience, that have seen so much and that have seen and experienced all of those challenges in real life. And then I had to, I'm actually a chemical engineer. I just came in here by coincidence. And I'm beyond that now, but in the beginning I really felt guilty. I felt like I missed part of the experience that I needed. But nobody blamed me for that. It was just my own feeling like, why am I missing that part? But nobody ever said anything about it or said, oh, you might not know what you're talking about because you've never been a seafarer. No.
I felt guilt as well, especially when I was driving innovation for Maersk. I was like, how can I tell someone that something needs to be implemented when I was never there in their shoes? And I felt that guilt, and I now feel less of it because I'm also learning, and I feel like, okay, I'm somehow trying to make up for it. But it is interesting that it is a thing, and another person that I will be interviewing, when I was having a conversation, they said to me, well, we didn't have a seafarer background, and we noticed that some of the people who you interview have that, like, we are here by accident. And I said, yeah, this is the point, like, we should also show that element.
True. Yeah, but that is the beauty of our industry. You have so many different aspects, and it's not that everybody that wants to join the maritime industry can only be a seafarer. We have lawyers, we have salespeople, we have technical people. You can do everything you want in this industry.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just maybe our own habit that we feel like we're missing something.
Well, when we put it out on the surface like this, then it will go away. So
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
if I pass you the microphone with questions, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I am curious, because doing podcasts is not something which, it's not on people's list. Like, okay, when I grow up, I want to do podcasts. So, how did you came to this idea?
I have no idea how I came up with it, because the desire for it appeared, I think, 7 years ago. And actually, the founder of these studios is my friend. So at that time, another mutual friend said, both of you want to do some podcasts. Why don't you talk to each other? And I was at that moment in Singapore. He was here in Dubai. And he was faster with getting to do it. So he started also like put up a desk and started talking. And he was really passionate about it, and it was picking up, and it became then the separate company. And I was observing and kind of like enjoying his journey, and I couldn't forgive myself, not because I didn't have the same vision for it, but it's like I don't like leaving my ideas untouched. So if it came to me, I feel responsibility to try. And then later when I was in a corporate, it felt that it didn't feel like I had enough time or enough freedom to shape it in a way, because even if you do it as part of a corporate, there is still an angle to it that you have to follow. And so I didn't have the freedom to just completely give it freedom to be what it is, to shape itself. And then when we decided to form Better Sea, I said, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna anchor this, but this is something that I really want to do. And conveniently enough, there was a studio for me to try it. So that is what it is. And then again, like, I'm not trained at all in media. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing, but I just kind of go with the flow. But I really enjoy these conversations, and I felt that throughout last year, as we were also building Better Sea, it was almost like this, each of these conversations was guiding me. And I could see that later when I reviewed the episodes and reflect. I was like, man, I got this advice exactly at the moment when I needed it. And then I just keep doing it because I enjoy, and I see how much it gives me on a personal level. And also later when I review the episodes, I pick up something new from it. So I feel like every time I go back to it, I have a different experience of the episode. And I'm always at the end proud that we have that moment and a memory to take over. So yeah, I'm still doing it.
Yeah, but it's nice to have those conversations with people, and indeed, with every conversation, you get inspired.
Yes.
And that's yeah, okay. Perhaps that's in every industry, but yeah, our industry is special, and many people have so many interesting stories, and that keeps adding value to who you are and shapes your journey as well. So I will. Yeah.
Yes, but why the focus on maritime was also because when I was at Maersk, I was talking to different engineers, project managers, different people in the company, as I was trying to inspire them to be a part of this decarbonization movement. And then by them sharing their own stories, I realized it's a whole like box of treasures that no one talks about. And I was like, I want to hear this story. And I wish someone else heard your story. So this is, I think, why this idea of podcast and maritime came together and are now the Wavemaker Podcast. But yeah, I'm glad.
And I'm happy to be in it. So it's really fun to do. And I have one more question, because what kind of ship would you be? I am really curious.
Well, I did have this answer before. Yes, and I now I reflected, is that same still? But it is. I wanted to be a feeder vessel. Yes, because I just like to connect things that seem just there, and I just like to like connect that bridge, and I like to feel the impact of whatever I'm doing, and I kind of feel that is that bridge. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, nice. Yeah, but it's also a very good question, and one of the things that I have experienced in my years in the maritime industry is that ships, they really have a soul, they have an identity, and they're all different, but they all have something special. And when you start to get more into it, you start to also see those special aspects. And a tugboat, for example, I never really liked them. But now that I understand how they work, what they do, they are so impressive. Inland vessels, most of the people look at them and they think, oh, it's just a family on an inland vessel with the car on the deck. They are very impressive when it comes to technology and efficiency and everything. So all of those different types of vessels have a very specific character and a soul. And yeah, so it's a nice question to ask people how they, or what kind of vessel they would identify themselves with.
I don't even remember how I came to that question in the first place whenever I was putting it together. But I like that it connects the person and also speaks about the industry. So we'll keep it. And maybe
Definitely.
I can add another one. Thank you for being my guest today. And I look forward to more in the future when we reflect, and also I hope that this series keep going so that we get that opportunity again.
Absolutely. And you definitely inspired me. So thank you for inviting me. And I really enjoyed it.
I'm very glad. Thank you.
Thank you.